Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, I'm very happy that I can contribute to this discussion about New Europe here at the Smolenice Castle. In the morning, we listened to contributions from politicians, former politicians, analysts, people from the world of business and diplomats. I will try to look at the situation from my perspective and from the perspective of an independent foreign affairs analyst, and I'm going to look at two issues. The first one is my perception of the state of the European Union, and the second part, I will look at the Slovak presidency of the Council of the European Union, and I will offer my reflection concerning its challenges, successes, bottlenecks, and maybe I will also mention some situations that we have learned from. According to the contributions in the first block, it is evident that the European Union is going through a crisis. Each single speaker has mentioned this fact, whether they were from the political or public sphere. However, it is true that the level of urgency of the crisis has been described differently. Some have stated that the European Union has been frequently exposed to crises, but it has always been able to overcome them. But we have also heard some more alarming speeches and also remarks by President Gasparovic that we are teetering on the brink of the Third World War. Of course, the proposals concerning the situation and the proposals for stabilizations are also different. Jirka Weigl has said that we have to take a new, fresh look at the situation of the EU, and that turning a blind eye to the fact that the European Union is also in a deep crisis, political crisis, will not help us. On the other hand, some participants, mainly diplomats, always keep their positive thinking, as they believe that the European Union will eventually emerge from each crisis somewhat braver and firmer. I personally think that it is not only Europe is going through a crisis, but the whole transatlantic area is facing the same situation. I attended a forum in Washington and then in Halifax 2 weeks ago. It was kind of North America version Globsec. I have never seen America so disorganized, ambiguous and unpredictable before. If you ask someone in the US about the future development of their domestic or foreign policy, the only answer you will get from both the politicians and the analysts, they would say too early to say or I don't know. This has never been like this in the US. There have been alterations of power in the United States, but they have always known in principle what they can expect. This means that the whole Western world, the whole transatlantic community is currently undergoing a major change. We are at a crossroads, and it would not be good for us and not fair that for us not to openly admit that we are facing a crisis. In 2016, I think, two events that happened, and I consider them to be the most crucial for the future development of the situation in the transatlantic area. The first one is the United Kingdom leaving the EU, or the choice of its citizens to leave the European Union, and the victory of Donald Trump in the US presidential elections. Both these events indicate that the European and transatlantic policy will undergo significant changes, because the paradigm of integration or extension is being replaced with the paradigm of possible fragmentation. The European Union was not ready for departure of its members. Its psychology and policy was originally aimed at enlargement and not at maintaining or disintegration. Currently, there is a lot of events where analysts project possible outcomes of the situation and discuss how to prevent future fragmentation or what other policy models could be adopted to avoid the fragmentation. President Komorowski has mentioned that our values and the truth are being attacked. I fully agree with this, because the type of discourse taking place nowadays is completely different from the one we have been used to until now. Vulgarization and radicalization is getting into the public sphere, and the standard political elites do not know how to handle the situation. In this case, at this point, I would like to point out that the public discourse and communication is influenced by new communication possibilities. So it should be stressed again that the political elites are not able to take control of the situation and respond to numerous negative trends which question the current political system or the setup of the European and transatlantic area. Since we are at a conference organized by a foundation dedicated to science and education, I would like to remark that scientists and educators have not contributed to the solution of this problem yet. They are rather watching in amazement what is happening to us. Try to answer the question, to what extent are the Slovak Academy of Sciences or the Academies of Sciences in individual countries? To what extent do Slovak universities answer many of these pressing questions we are talking about today? The fact is that the university teachers and researchers are remunerated on the basis of their citation impact. To what extent do their scientific results contribute to the enrichment of society, general knowledge, to finding solutions? To what extent do universities and the Academy of Sciences contribute to the measurement of the cleanliness of public life? We can measure the particles and chemicals, but we cannot sufficiently measure to what extent nonsensical conspiracy theories about the world pollute the public life. And it pollutes the young generation. These attitudes are affecting the young generation in the first place. It often happens that we fail at finding rational debate in the discourse, and all means we are getting already volatile word. In this case, I would like to suggest to Professor Luby and other academics to try to look at the impact factor of their efforts in dialogue, and particularly of efforts to find solution to the discussed problems, including the trust for the European project. Try to take into your heads that you want to be as good as Marian Kotleba or Mr. Kollár, so that your videos would have as many views as theirs. Make your voice heard not only in the meetings of critics or closed groups who meet to discuss the decadence and vulgarization of the public life. To what extent does Church respond to the situation? Priests only watch in amazement as well how decency is vanishing from people's lives, how the 10 commandments are not obeyed anymore, and so on. I think that the priests are completely unprepared for the situation we are facing, just as business elites who poorly contribute to the ongoing discourse. So there can be no questions of the impact factor of current elites. They are discredited in the public eye just as the media. If we do not do something about this, I think the radicalization and rudeness of the discourse will remain. Let's go back to my trip to the United States. I have mentioned before, analytical centers in Washington are being assaulted because they are not able to predict things as they have before. They have never found themselves in a similar situation. There is a clear signal, and we don't have enough tools in our society or ability to tackle them adequately, and this is something we have to admit. Few comments on the Slovak presidency of the Council of European Union. Peter Míšik mentioned, or he pointed out, two theses that I personally liked: restoration of confidence and sincere communication. I was really pleased as the former head of Slovak diplomacy and a man who follows the progress of Slovak foreign policy with interest, I was pleased to see how we led the presidency. Netherlands has already taken on the presidency 12 times, but for us this was the first time. When we were taking over the presidency from them, the Dutch were really generous and they helped us passing on the experience of their diplomats. Moreover, Princess Beatrix came to Slovakia and there was a flower carpet outside the National Theatre. In short, the Dutch handed over the presidency to us in a spectacular fashion. Then we organized several remarkable events which sparkled pride and patriotism in people. We are proud that Slovakia can hold the presidency, the country that was the only one among the European Union's member states which had the accession negotiation interrupted because of the democracy deficit in the 1990s. Slovakia eventually managed to win the membership in the European Union, which was the main modernization factor for us. Therefore, the moment when we took the presidency had an immense importance not only for diplomats, politicians, but also for the general public, I believe. The Bratislava summit also, we were nervous when we were organizing it, as it was an unprecedented event for Slovakia. So many politicians came to Bratislava that we decided to close schools just to be sure. In short, we almost depopulated the city. I consider this to be the only shortcoming, but this was a kind of problem or complication because we wanted everything to go well, but I understand we wanted to assure that everything goes well. So let us think that the statement that the citizens should feel that we hold the presidency, they felt that when the kids did not go to school. When I met a diplomat during the Bratislava summit, he said that he felt that he was on the moon because he had not met anyone in the city. The city started to breathe and live again only after the delegations had left. This was just a funny story I wanted to share with you. Otherwise, the summit was a success, judging by the fact that the leaders were able to agree on and adopt the Bratislava Declaration and roadmap during informal discussion, even though it had not been certain even the day before. It is a great success, and the Bratislava summit was not planned. It took place on the initiative of the Slovak Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, so I think it was a great achievement for Slovakia. During this year, only for 3 weeks, we will hold the presidency. For approximately 3 more weeks this year, numerous events have been organized at schools or by non-governmental organizations such as Globsec Tatra Summit in autumn. So the presidency was not only a matter for diplomats, but the whole nations. Few problematic areas, as Professor Kašaj stated, we should speak about openly and honestly at this event, because we want European project to be successful. So I would like to mention some problematic areas as well. I think that we did not succeed at drawing people into the European Union project. To give an example, Slovakia is the leader in the European elections turnout. Only 30% of people participated in these elections. I was expecting that the European leaders coming to Slovakia coming to a country which was happy about the presidency would focus more on making people perceive them as their representatives because they were aware that the country was happy about taking on the presidency. But they also knew the popularity of the European Union in Slovakia was decreasing over the last year. When Jean-Claude Juncker came, I thought he would start with introducing himself as our European Prime Minister. I was also expecting that he would say at least one sentence that would touch the hearts of people or would be citable. However, there was no sentence that I could cite in his speech that I was really paying attention. When I asked his team whether they try to measure whether people actually know who Jean-Claude Juncker is, they answered that they do not do that. I wanted to know why, because every politician needs to know his name recognition and needs to be perceived positively. We do not do that. That's all they said. I suggest that they could include it among the many questions in the Eurobarometer. We do not do that. I heard again. No wonder European leaders are perceived as some unclear images somewhere in the distance, and people defend them and when they hear some critical remarks about them, because they do not have the feeling that these leaders are theirs. I think that we need the remedy that if we want to field, except for the national leaders, we also have European ones. European leaders have to show that people are also made of flesh and bones, and they have to talk to them. And then the Brussels remains a cold, abstract place for which people are pulling away. It would have cost these leaders nothing if they had met young students at the university during the Bratislava summit, or meet people in the courtyard of the Bratislava castle, touch them and allow them to touch. There were a lot of possibilities, and I think this is something that remains the lesson that we should have learned. Finally, I will express that for active diplomats it's very difficult to say it. I will say it. That right before the end of the presidency, there was an inconvenience in the form of an assault on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. According to the accusation of the ministry misused the money destined for the events connected with the presidency. However, I think that there is still enough time to solve the issue. We should not let to ruin our presidency, because I'm convinced that Slovak diplomats as well as the government did a great job. On the other hand, there is still a problem with communication, and I will say it out loud. I think that the Prime Minister Robert Fico interconnected his domestic political struggling with the presidency. When he says our presidency, it sounds as if he was thinking the presidency of our government. Moreover, his statements such as the opposition undermines our presidency and the media undermine our presidency make the term our presidency strongly ideological. I'm convinced that the true meaning of this term is presidency of Slovaks, in which all of us, the government, ministries, diplomats, schools, non-governmental organizations, citizens, local authorities, businessmen, they play their role. So I really think this issue should be clarified as soon as possible. On one hand, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs cannot hide and must provide all the necessary documents. They have to prove it and they cannot hide. I'm sure Minister Lajčák is fully aware of this fact, since he has already stated that he is willing to show and clarify anything connected with any discrepancies. I think we should appreciate at the end of the presidency all the people, or including organizers of this conference, who have contributed to the spreading of the discourse about the European Union in Slovakia. It has developed a lot. Slovakia plays